It was a terrible day for the protagonist Shizuki, the day he finally saw something monstrous behind beauty. Soon after, he overhears his classmate Ririsa calling him creepy. She adds that she wants people like him beneath her to boost her own status. The words hit hard. He is quietly shattered. Now in his present life, he is in high school, sitting quietly in his class when his friend comes over and suggests they head to the cafeteria together. He replies that he'll join after finishing his notes, as he's seated far from the board and has trouble seeing clearly. Just then, his friend adds that Harana will be going with them too. Suddenly, Shizuki's handwriting speed increases by 500%. NASA should study this. After hearing that, he quietly chuckles to himself. He thinks about how, ever since that heartbreak, he motivated himself, worked on his weaknesses, and started this high school life with a fresh mindset, determined not to remain the old Shizuki. In a short time, he made several friends here, and now his life has changed quite a lot. But when it comes to the one sitting next to him, the case is a bit different. The student beside him is Kuseninoi Shizuka, who came from the same school as him. After joining this high school, she's quickly seen as the most beautiful girl in their grade. Though Shizuki doesn't have a direct connection with her now, he still knows her quite well. And the reason is simple. Back in their previous school, he remembers Kuseninoi being just like him, gloomy and a loner. She was from a different class, but they often sat together in the library, so he knows her well. Now seeing her like this, he thinks that Kuseninoi too has thrown herself into a new debut, just like he did. As several boys crowd around her for her line ID, she struggles to respond. It's less of a line exchange and more of a desperate job interview to her. Meanwhile, Shizuki quietly gets up, reminding himself of his promise to avoid pretty girls and stay uninvolved. Without a word, he leaves the classroom, while Kuseninoi silently watches him go. Shizuki sticks to his resolve and heads home after school. But suddenly, he hears Kuseninoi voice from behind, breathless and tired. Surprised, he turns to see her catching up. He had noticed she was behind him, but he never expected her to be following him this closely. Kuseninoi catches up to him and tells him she's in some kind of trouble, and only he can help her. She's blushing and visibly agitated, while Shizuki has no idea what kind of trouble she could be in. She explains that since they studied in the same school before, there's something she's wanted to tell him for a long time. Hearing this, his curiosity grows even more. Kuseninoi tells Shizuki that he's changed a lot, but before he can respond calmly, he suddenly blurts out that it's actually she who has changed even more. The moment he sees a strange spark in her eyes, a sharp pain hits his head. He begins to wonder, why is it that whenever he makes eye contact with a girl, he feels this unsettling discomfort deep inside? It's an old condition of his. Whenever he looks at pretty girls, he starts feeling that same discomfort within himself. Now as he glances around, he notices everyone staring at them. He turns to Kuseninoi and tells her that since everyone's watching, they should head to the nearby park and talk about all this there. As they sit in the park, evening quietly fades into night. After Kuseninoi finally finishes explaining everything, she asks Shizuki if he understands now. He, sitting beside her, simply repeats one thing, that she doesn't actually know how to hold conversations, but she's so impressed by the way he speaks that she wants him to teach her how to talk to people. Kuseninoi nods in agreement, while Shizuki thinks he still struggles with people. He decides to avoid eye contact to speak normally. If he makes eye contact for more than 0.2 seconds, his soul starts buffering. She then says she's impressed by how well he talks in class and how many friends he's made. He is puzzled, asks what she means, since it's usually her who's always surrounded by others. Shizuki is surprised when Kuseninoi tells him she has no real friends. POV, she's the queen of the hallway but can't find a lunch buddy. The girls in class don't treat her well either. Seeing Kuseninoi so downcast, Shizuki realizes her situation is truly difficult. He knows the girls are jealous of her, and he starts to think Kuseninoi is caught in a much bigger social struggle than he imagined. Looking down, she quietly admits she's changed a lot on the outside, but inside she still feels like a nobody. It all carries deep meaning for her. She tells him she's been alone for a long time, back in middle school and even now, and she's still feeling hopeless. Seeing her in this state of depression, Shizuki can't help but remember his own past, when he used to feel the exact same way. It hits him hard, and he finds himself unable to feel anything good about the situation. All he feels now is a deep sadness for her. He stands up from the bench and, with confidence, tells Kuseninoi that she needs to be more confident too. She looks at him, surprised as he encourages her further, saying she needs a fresh debut in high school. It takes effort, he admits, but it's something she has to do, because if he can socially respond, anyone can. Shizuki goes on to say that he talks to as many people as he can to improve his social skills, and Kusunoki should do the same. He's surprised to realize he's now speaking directly while looking at her, yet not feeling his usual illness. Slightly hesitant, he tells her that's all he really does, then turns to leave. Just as Shizuki starts to walk away, Kusunoki grabs his arm from behind. Here, social anxiety meets anime-level clinginess, while she pleads with him to tell her how she can get better at talking to people. He is in a hurry to leave, but she stops him. He responds by saying she just needs to make one true friend, someone she can talk to easily, and the rest will naturally fall into place. And then Kusunoki suddenly asks, can Shizuki be her friend? Shizuki is stunned. She, standing before him, sincerely pleads that she truly wants someone to talk to and has no one else. He is even more surprised. He never expected her to ask him so directly. Shizuki wonders, does Kusunoki truly need him? But then another thought creeps in. If she improved her communication skills, she might change her personality, and she could same just like Ririsa did. With that memory in mind, Shizuki hesitates, convinced that Kusunoki too might turn out the same once she changes. But he is suddenly forced to shift his thinking when he sees Kusunoki still holding on to him, trembling, pleading for his help. In that moment, he realizes that if he walks away now, she might completely break down. So he tells her he'll be her friend. Hearing this, a spark lights up in Kusunoki's eyes, and she suddenly starts crying, thanking him over and over. He wasn't ready for the DLC that came with friendship, but he sets a quiet limit. He'll be her friend only until she makes new ones. Kusunoki tells him she's happy with that. She doesn't mind at all. Then she adds, since they're friends now, he will have to take care of her. Shizuki, still thinking it over, wonders if he's really cured, since he looked into her eyes directly without discomfort. Even so, he admits to himself, it finally feels surprisingly good. The next day, as class starts, he is surprised to see Kusunoki sitting in front of him for lunch. When he asks, she simply says yes, today she's eating with him. He thinks this shouldn't be happening. Even if they're just normal friends, sitting together for lunch won't look good to the rest of the class. And he's right. Whispers quickly spread about him and Kusunoki. His quiet lunch plans are now a full-blown scandal. He immediately thinks to himself that he knew something weird like this would happen, then quickly calls out to Kusunoki by name. Just then, she laughs and says it's always been her dream to sit and have lunch with a friend. Shizuki was not prepared to be part of someone's bucket list. He is stunned. Meanwhile, some of his classmates stand up, watching them like it's a date. He thinks to himself, if this keeps up, his peaceful high school life is going to be over. He suddenly shouts, and Kusunoki, with a big smile, asks what happened. He quickly clarifies that it's nothing, then lowers his head, thinking, she looks really happy. It's her first lunch with a friend after all. That's why just for today, he's sitting with her like this. After that, she blushes and hesitantly asks if she can start calling him by his first name, Keisuke. He blushes a little too, but says he doesn't mind. She can call him whatever she wants. He mentions he's going to grab a drink, and as soon as she hears that, Kusunoki quickly volunteers to join him. As they walk, Keisuke tells her not to follow him, but she insists. Now that they're friends, she should come along. He thinks to himself at that moment he had no idea what was about to unfold and that his peaceful life was already turning into pure chaos. Just then, he accidentally bumps into a girl and quickly apologizes. The girl smiles and says it's okay, but as soon as Keisuke sees her face, he's stunned. It's Ririsa, the same girl who broke his heart in middle school. Of course it's her, because fate runs on soap opera logic. What is she doing at this school? Kusunoki watches in surprise, while Keisuke, filled with frustration, suddenly starts shouting. He refuses to accept that it's really her. When Kusunoki asks, he simply says he's fine. But as soon as he turns to look at Ririsa again, he sees her staring right back at him. He sinks into quiet despair, wondering why the very girl who once brought trauma into his life is now standing before him again. Bro unlocks a new symptom, emotional lag, as her name wasn't even on the class list, so how is this possible? Just then, someone calls out to her from behind, Hebekawa Ririsa. As soon as Keisuke hears the name Hebekawa, he freezes in shock. She walks up to him and asks if he's okay, because he doesn't look well. Hesitating, he quietly says he's fine. Then she notices Kusunoki, turns to her, and asks if she's his friend. Kusunoki replies with a simple yes. Hebekawa calmly says Keisuke doesn't look good and suggests Kusunoki take him to the infirmary. Kusunoki happily agrees, sensing something special. As Hebekawa steps closer, she gently places her hand on Keisuke's shoulder. He starts trembling. His trauma is now Bluetooth connected to her touch. And with a soft smile, she says she hopes he feels better soon. After saying that, Hebekawa walks away while Keisuke keeps watching her go. Her eyes, her voice, and that familiar ribbon, he's never forgotten them. He knows he hasn't made a mistake in recognizing her. His heart starts pounding faster, and a sinking feeling hits him. His peaceful high school life might truly be over now. Somewhere inside, his peace is packing its bags and moving out. Kusunoki says she's taking him to the infirmary, and if needed, she'll even give him a piggyback ride. But before she finishes, Keisuke suddenly shouts, declaring that under no circumstances will he let his new high school life come to an end. Kusunoki stares at him in confusion, while Keisuke, burning with resolve, thinks to himself that he won't let someone like her ruin his high school debut. Not this time, not Hebekawa. It's not just war, it's a one-man resistance with mid-tier grades and zero chill. He immediately turns to Kusunoki and asks if she got the message. She nods quickly, though she has no clue what just happened. When she asks if he's feeling better now, he starts rambling nonsense again. But deep inside, he thinks to himself that he gave everything to earn this life, and now he's going to protect it no matter what. At the end of school, Keisuke is sitting peacefully in class when Kusunoki suddenly shows up and brightly asks if he'll walk home with her today. Her face beams with excitement, while Keisuke, watching her, thinks to himself that Kusunoki has become yet another source of trouble in his life. He awkwardly starts making excuses, saying he's not sure yet, literally lying like his GPA depends on it. Kusunoki, curious, asks if he has something important to do. He lies with a quick yeah, but Kusunoki just smiles and says she'll wait for him anyway. This only makes things more awkward for him. Just then, a few classmates pass by and tease Keisuke, joking that he's really enjoying life at this school. Enjoying, huh? Rose one awkward sneeze away from dropping out emotionally, and somehow this bad situation gets even worse. One of Keisuke's classmates walks over, places a hand on his shoulder, and teasingly asks if the two of them are actually dating. Keisuke freezes. He malfunctions so hard, even Windows asks if he wants to run in safe mode. His mind spirals. If people start suspecting anything between him and Kusunoki, things at school could get even worse for him. Without another word, he abruptly shouts that he is not affiliated with her in any way, then bolts out of the classroom, declaring he's going home. The classmates just laugh while Kusunoki stares, confused by Keisuke's reaction. They offer to walk her home. Meanwhile, he walks alone, thinking how awful the day turned out. He even left Kusunoki behind. That's when he hears footsteps behind him. She calls his name from behind, and Keisuke freezes in shock. Panicking, he quickly asks what she's doing following him. She explains she ran after him just to catch up, and now she's completely out of breath. Keisuke, still confused, wonders why Kusunoki is going this far for him. Is she loyal or just dangerously bored? The line is getting blurry. Kusunoki smiles and replies that she simply wanted to walk home with him, so she followed him. But it seems like Keisuke isn't up for it. He places a hand on his forehead and mutters that it's not like that. After a brief pause, he calls her name with a thoughtful look in his eyes. He suddenly tells her that even though they're friends, they're of opposite genders, so they can't just walk home together. Kusunoki panics, stunned by his words, wondering what kind of logic he's using. He goes on, saying they can't even have lunch together. Hearing all this, Kusunoki asks why he's talking like that. He awkwardly scratches his head, fumbling for an excuse, explaining that people might get the wrong idea about their relationship, so he tells Kusunoki that from now on, even casual conversations inside the classroom are off limits. He walks away, thinking he's handled the situation, but Kusunoki calls out behind him, saying that if this continues, she won't get another chance to talk. And if that happens, she won't have anyone else left to talk to. Now Keisuke finds himself completely stuck, with no way out of the situation. As they walk, she suddenly suggests they could just call each other in the evening if talking in class is off limits. He freezes, caught off guard. The idea hits him like a wave. He's never talked to a girl on the phone before. His mind starts to reel. Even his anxiety started digging its own grave. Hearing all this, Keisuke suddenly freezes, unsure how to respond. Kusunoki, on the other hand, waits hopefully, fully expecting him to agree. But when she sees his stunned silence, even she becomes silent. At night, Keisuke lies on his bed, staring at his phone, lost in thought. He reflects on how Kusunoki finally got what she wanted. A small smile touches his lips as he recalls how the two of them exchanged contact information. Those same questions still swirl in Keisuke's mind, especially the moment when Kusunoki tells him she wants to talk in a call, so people don't even get a chance to guess. She asks if that would be okay with him. Awkwardly, he replies that twice a week would be fine. Hearing this, Kusunoki lights up with visible joy. A mutual understanding forms between them, and with that, they exchange contacts. For the first time in her life, Kusunoki saves a friend's number, Keisuke's, as the very first contact in her phone. Kusunoki feels genuinely happy about it and asks him if she can call tonight. Keisuke is caught off guard, but calmly replies that he'll call her himself instead. Inside, though, he's already thinking he'll need to prepare himself for this call. Kusunoki, smiling brightly, tells him she'll be waiting for his call. A while later, he finds himself thinking that he can never do anything in front of Kusunoki's smile. It unsettles him. What will he even talk about on the call? Lost in thought, his eyes land on his study timer. He sits up, sets it, and limits the call to 10 minutes. He looks at the timer like it's a bomb he just armed, 10 minutes to survive or self-destruct. Then, with a deep breath, he dials her number. As soon as the phone rings, Kusunoki instantly picks up and greets him with a cheerful hello. Her voice is so cheerful, it sounds like she's been waiting by the phone since last Thursday. He quickly apologizes for calling late, but Kusunoki doesn't mind. She simply thanks him. After that, he sits in silence, unsure of what to say next. Struggling to find the right words, he starts saying random things just to keep the conversation going. Keisuke finally says that the weather feels colder today, maybe even more than yesterday. He's pretty sure the weather isn't colder, it's just the pressure of small talk freezing his brain. Kusunoki agrees. He then adds that he doesn't really like this kind of weather and asks what she thinks about it. Kusunoki responds that she feels the same. An awkward silence follows, hanging between them like a fog neither knows how to clear. Keisuke thinks he has nothing left to say. Kusunoki should say something now to keep the conversation moving. Glancing at the timer, he sees there are still 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. That's either an eternity or one awkward pause away from hanging up. Taking the lead again, he asks about her hobbies. She shares that she really likes manga and anime. Surprised and excited, since those are his own interests too, Keisuke asks her to name a particular one she enjoys. The moment he asks, it's as if he's pressed Kusunoki's talking button. She suddenly starts speaking nonstop. It's like someone hit the unmute button on a YouTuber doing a 3-hour review. She's so caught up in excitement that she doesn't pause for a moment. He realizes she had only been quiet earlier because he wasn't talking about her interests. After sharing all her thoughts, she finally asks if he likes manga too. Keisuke freezes, caught off guard, and begins to overthink his response. After musing for a moment, he mentions he likes a manga called Nova. Kusunoki is surprised, it's her favorite too. She eagerly asks more, but just then, Keisuke's timer beeps. When she asks about the sound, he brushes it off. He lies like a pro, casually pretending the timer wasn't a digital escape hatch. Ignoring the time, they dive into their Nova talk, completely caught up in the moment. By the time they finally check, the call has gone well over an hour and a half. Sitting in class later, Keisuke feels an odd kind of tension. What just happened? He can't wrap his head around how he ended up talking to Kusunoki for so long. He feels like he entered a 10-minute call and came out with a monthly phone plan. While lost in thought, he sees Kusunoki walk past him. She moves silently through a gloomy air and quietly takes her seat. She looks off, distant, almost depressed. She walks in like someone just spoiled the ending of her favorite manga. Concerned, he greets her with a soft good morning. She responds faintly and sits down. He watches her, puzzled. She was fine until now. What suddenly changed? He reminds himself not to get too drawn into Kusunoki's mood. He had already decided not to talk to her during school hours, and he needs to stick to that. So throughout the day, he simply observes her from a distance, watchful, waiting for the right moment to step in. But deep inside, overthinking and a quiet wave of anxiety begin to eat at him. He can't shake the need to know what's wrong with Kusunoki. As the day ends and students start heading out, he sees Kusunoki packing up to leave. Unable to hold back, he calls out to her from behind. When he calls out, Kusunoki turns, asking what is it? He hesitates for a moment. He's reached her, but now he's unsure how to ask. Trying to keep it casual, he simply says he noticed she seemed a bit down today and wonders if there's a reason behind it. He breaks his own rules so fast, even his guilt can't keep up. Keisuke feels a wave of embarrassment. It was he who had set the boundary of not talking at school, and now here he is, asking personal questions. Kusunoki pauses for a moment, then hesitantly opens up. She says she's been feeling guilty since last night's call. They talked for a long time, and she realizes she did most of the talking, barely giving him a chance to speak. That thought has been bothering her. He's surprised. If being talkative were a crime, half the class would be in detention. Hearing that, Keisuke is suddenly stunned, like a weight lifts off his head. He thinks, was she really that upset over something so small? Gently, he tells her there's no need to worry. They were just practicing talking on calls, after all, so she doesn't need to feel sorry. But she feels deeply ashamed of herself. She lowers her gaze, sits down, and keeps repeating that she's terrible for not letting him speak at all. The mood turns heady and gloomy. He finally understands what's really troubling her. Seeing her this upset, he gently tells her there's no need to apologize. He genuinely enjoyed listening to her. Hearing this, she feels a bit of relief and lifts her head to look at Keisuke. Just then, his friends, Tsuji and Hirano, show up. Both stop in surprise, clearly confused about what he is doing there. They walk up to him and jokingly ask if they're intruding on his space. Then, with a suspicious tone, Tsuji leans closer and asks what's going on between him and Kusunoki, stealing a glance at her. Turning back, he bids her goodbye, confusing her. But Kusunoki silently whispers for her to go home, and she understands. Just then, Tsuji and Hirano start teasing Keisuke, saying it looks like he's secretly dating Kusunoki and didn't even tell them. As they laugh, they notice Kusunoki, who was walking away, suddenly stops. She turns back, pauses for a moment, then calls out to Keisuke from behind. With a soft smile and a blush on her face, she calls out to Keisuke. She tells him that she really enjoyed spending time with him last night. Hearing this, an awkward silence falls over the group. The most stunned of all is Hirano. He secretly has a crush on Kusunoki. Now both begin questioning Keisuke, their tone half teasing, half suspicious. Keisuke, caught in the middle, quickly tells them they've misunderstood the whole situation. The next morning in class, Hirano angrily questions Keisuke, asking if he's really telling the truth about nothing going on with Kusunoki. He insists there's nothing, but Hirano refuses to believe him. Keisuke grows worried, realizing this misunderstanding came from Kusunoki's words the day before. Hirano, fuming, tells Keisuke that Kusunoki doesn't speak to anyone else so casually. He's acting like he borrowed his favorite manga and never returned it. Keisuke explains they knew each other from their old school, which is why they talk that way. Hirano grows more jealous, upset that Keisuke never mentioned it before. He sits back, bitterly wondering how pretty Kusunoki must have looked in junior high. But Keisuke walks away, unwilling to continue the conversation. As he leaves, Hirano calls out from behind, asking him to at least arrange a meeting with Kusunoki, even if it's by surprise. His tone turns oddly pleading, like a guy begging for Wi-Fi in a no-signal zone. Keisuke, without saying a word, simply turns and walks off. On his way home from school, he thinks about how different Kusunoki and Hirano's personalities are. He doubts they could ever really get along, but after a moment's pause, he considers, if he arranges a meeting between them, maybe he can stop being her friend, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help clear up everyone's suspicions too. It might just remove one more obstacle to his peaceful life. But just then, while walking through the corridor, he suddenly bumps into someone. It's Hebekawa. He stumbles and falls to the ground. At this point, gravity just has a personal grudge against him. As he looks up at her, he's completely stunned. Hebekawa spots Keisuke and says he's the person from before, the first one she met, noticing that they bump into each other often. He mentally adds this to his growing list of public humiliations. He is still on the ground, groans and wonders why this always happens to him. Hirano notices Keisuke on the ground and hurries over, confused. Hebekawa tells him that Keisuke suddenly started feeling sick. Without wasting time, Hirano calls over Tsuji. The two of them help lift Shizuki up, and Hebekawa watches, a bit surprised. Keisuke's friends are more dependable than she expected. Just then, Hebekawa stands up to leave and tells Shizuki to take care of himself. The moment he hears his name from her lips, a strange dizziness hits him. His head spins, and he's left confused, unable to process what's happening. Hirano grows even more shocked. Now Hebekawa knows Keisuke too. He quickly says he doesn't know her and insists she's not his friend. Curious, he asks Hirano how he knows Hebekawa-san. Hirano proudly explains that he has data on every beautiful girl in their grade. Hebekawa ranks second. Somewhere in his room, there's probably a spreadsheet titled the Prettiness Index. Kijike then asks, half dreading who's first. Without hesitation, Hirano replies, "It's Kusunoki." Hirano in anger comes to Kijike and tells him that he doesn't understand how he and Kusunoki became friends. But now he begs him to give him just one chance to meet her. After that, Kijike agrees, which makes Hirano very happy. But in their excitement, they forget that Hebekawa had just told them Shizuki was feeling sick. After coming back from school, Kijike thinks he should talk to Kusunoki. Maybe she'll agree. But on the call, Kusunoki suddenly says she doesn't want that. He asks her again to confirm, and she repeats the same answer. Kijike hadn't imagined Kusunoki would refuse so quickly. She asks if this was really what he wanted to talk about, this proposal. He replies that she should treat it as just a conversational exercise, that it won't hurt her. Kusunoki is now surprised, unsure what exactly he is trying to say. He's pitching this lunch like it's a group project with no grades. When she asks who will be there, expecting just him and Hirano, Keisuke clarifies that another boy, Suji, will also be with them. Kusunoki looks visibly confused and surprised. Kijike quickly picks up on her discomfort, realizing she might not be comfortable being seen with strangers, so he adjusts, telling her that the meeting won't happen there, she can just speak to Hirano alone. But she replies honestly, she only wants to go if Kijike is with her. On the call, he also tells her that Hirano could actually be a better friend than he is, that she should at least talk to him. Kusunoki falls silent, visibly surprised. Kijike waits, unsure what she's about to say. Then hesitantly, she speaks, her voice soft, almost trembling. "That's not true," she says, and hearing those words, Kijike is completely stunned. During the call, she hesitantly tells him that if he won't be with her at the lunch meeting, then she won't go either. Kijike, puzzled, wonders if she's upset with him and gently asks if she's angry. Kusunoki doesn't give a clear answer, then suddenly falls silent. After a pause, she quietly says she has to go and will talk later. The call ends shortly after, barely lasting 15 minutes. Left staring at his screen, he begins to wonder if he's somehow upset her. He wonders if he said something wrong, something that might have hurt her or should have been left unsaid. His brain starts replaying the conversation like a podcast he regrets subscribing to. Meanwhile, she sits alone in her room, slipping into a quiet, heavy kind of sadness that almost feels like a deep depression. The next day, Kijike takes Kusunoki out for lunch. Suji and Hirano are also there, clearly having a good time. Hirano, full of excitement, starts saying all sorts of strange things. It's like someone gave him a microphone and zero supervision. As Keisuke's gaze shifts toward Kusunoki, he notices she's sitting quietly, far too quiet. Seeing her like this, Keisuke is visibly surprised. Kusunoki looks noticeably uneasy, like accidentally joining the wrong Zoom meeting. He keeps wondering if maybe she isn't enjoying herself, which is why she hasn't said a word yet. Just then, Suji turns to Kusunoki and asks if she attended the same school as Keisuke. At that, Hirano suddenly shifts into a questioning pose and delivers his comment with dramatic curiosity. Kusunoki simply responds that they were only in the same class and nothing more. Hearing this, Hirano feels relieved. It's good news for him. Hesitating a little, he stands up and turns toward Kusunoki. He tells her that he also wants to be her friend. Extending his hand toward her, he asks her to accept his friendship and share her contact number, promising that he'll share his as well. He's offering it like a business card he printed 5 minutes ago. Kusunoki just keeps staring, saying nothing, while an awkward silence falls over the table. Hirano starts to feel that he's created an uncomfortable scene. Trying to ease the tension, he waves his hand and says to just ignore what he said. He apologizes, asking everyone to forget whatever he blurted out. Meanwhile, Keisuke quietly observes the whole moment. Even the table feels second-hand embarrassment. He explains to Kusunoki that Hirano isn't a bad guy and she might actually enjoy talking to him. Kusunoki thinks for a moment, then nods and says that if that's the case, then all right, but adds that she might have left her phone in class, so she'll share her contact with him later. A little while later, back in the classroom, Hirano happily thanks Keisuke, calling him the Great Keisuke. He mentally adds matchmaker to his list of unwanted job titles. He says he never expected Kusunoki would actually agree to exchange contact info. Keisuke, watching him, thinks to himself that Hirano really does look genuinely happy. Keisuke wonders if Hirano's happiness might also be because he really likes Kusunoki, a common experience among today's youth. Just as Keisuke is about to leave, he tells Hirano he should head to class. But before he can go, Hirano stops him and says he needs one more favor. Keisuke becomes even more surprised. Hirano wants him to message Kusunoki from his phone, asking if she'd like to have lunch with him. Keisuke is baffled. If he has to do everything himself, what was the point of exchanging contacts in the first place? He's starting to think Hirano just wanted a ghostwriter for his love life. Hirano explains that he's just really shy and begs Keisuke to do this one last thing on his behalf. Later, inside the classroom, when Keisuke spots Kusunoki has read the message, she glances at him, blushes angrily, and quickly turns her face away. He starts wondering in his heart, did Kusunoki just ignore him? But why? He feels like he just accidentally forwarded a love letter to the entire class. He thinks maybe she is upset, but then again, anything could be the reason. Just then, his friends arrive and say goodbye to him after school. Keisuke notices that ever since last night's phone call, Kusunoki has been acting strangely, and today during lunch, it happened again. But he no longer wants to trouble himself over Kusunoki. He doesn't want to care whether she's upset or not, because it's not his problem. Lost in these thoughts, he watches as she walks away. Outside the school, he calls out to Kusunoki from behind, stopping her. She turns and asks what the reason is. First, he catches his breath. He had run to catch up with her. Then, thinking lightly for a moment, he realizes that once something enters his mind, he can't let it go easily, so he can't let her walk away. He gathers a bit of courage and asks her why she's been ignoring him. Kusunoki, looking slightly confused, responds that she thought they weren't supposed to talk, since he was the one who had said they shouldn't speak to each other at school. Hearing this, Keisuke starts thinking that she shouldn't be repeating all this. He can't argue. Just as he begins to respond, Kusunoki walks away before he can say anything. She says she always knew that Keisuke hated her, and she wasn't wrong about it. Hearing this, he feels a jolt of shock. As she turns back and looks at him, Kusunoki says she realized it when she saw him pushing her toward other boys, trying to push her out of any friendship with him, and she didn't like any of it. He feels like he's being sued in the courtroom of teen emotions. Keisuke, deep down, admits to himself that Kusunoki is right to some extent. He had seen her at her worst, yet always thought only about himself when it came to her. Because of this mindset, he ended up treating Kusunoki as if she didn't matter at all. After hearing all this, he is reminded of his past school life, when the head of the school grade committee had kept him close, only because he was the only one left behind. But even then, he was told not to expect too much. Remembering that, Keisuke reflects that he knows just how painful half-hearted kindness can be. And after realizing all this, he immediately lowers his head and apologizes to Kusunoki. The moment she sees him, she becomes a little unsettled and quietly sits down to the side, while Keisuke continues to watch her. Sitting there, Kusunoki tells him that the truth is she's not very good at talking to boys. She was bullied back in middle school, and ever since then, she's been afraid of them. Hearing this, Keisuke points out that he's a boy too. At that, Kusunoki smiles and replies that he's an exception. She explains to him that back in middle school, she and Keisuke had quite a few things in common, like spending time together in the library and being in the same class. She tells him that she always felt at ease around him. That's why, even if her friend circle is small, she's happy with just Keisuke in it, as her only male best friend. After hearing everything, he sits down beside her and tells her that he finally understands he won't do anything like that again. But at the same time, he feels his heart beating fast and loud. Just then, Kusunoki also tells him that her heart is racing. Hearing that, Keisuke is stunned. His brain officially logs out to process this unexpected update. Blushing, Kusunoki looks at him and says that this is the first time she's ever had a fight with a friend. Hearing all this, Keisuke starts feeling confused himself. He sits there, thinking that maybe this is his first real fight too, and perhaps that's why his heart is beating like this. Just then, Kusunoki stands up and asks if they can start talking more at school now. Keisuke agrees, and she walks away happily, humming to herself. Keisuke watches her like a guy who just saw the credits roll on a movie he didn't know he was in. Keisuke is left wondering if there could really be no other reason behind his racing heartbeat. The very next day in class, the teacher announces to all the students that now that they've entered a new class and new grade, the school will be holding a dodgeball event in which everyone must participate. Kijike silently wonders if trauma is now part of the curriculum. Since not everyone can be on the same team, she wants the teams to be decided through a class vote. Meanwhile, Keisuke finds the whole thing seriously strange. He thinks to himself that this is a childish game, and worse for him, because if he gets selected and messes something up, it could be embarrassing. He already imagines his dodgeball failures going viral on imaginary school YouTube. Suddenly, a thought hits him. Being in the same grade means Hebekawa from Class B will also be there. Just thinking about her makes him feel a bit sick, like his stomach downloaded a virus. He immediately prays silently, asking God to give him strength. Sometime later, he's sitting with the rest of his friends, eating lunch, when they tell him how lucky he is to have been selected. They all wanted to be on the team too. Meanwhile, Keisuke sits there surrounded by a gloomy atmosphere. The only thing missing is sad piano music and a black and white filter. He thinks none of his prayers ever get answered. He tells his friends that he wants to go home, and one of them agrees, saying that cheering for the team is boring anyway, so he wants to leave too. Just then, Hirano, standing nearby, asks why both of them have such low morale. Keisuke immediately asks Hirano what he's so happy about. Hirano replies that just think about it. Normally their PE class is short and separate from the girls, but today, for the first time, he'll get a full display. That alone is enough to hype him up. The other boys start ignoring his words, while he insists there's real weight in what he's saying. They wonders if Hirano's brain is permanently stuck in puberty. Just then, they see Kuseninoi approaching. She spots Keisuke and calls out to him, saying she's been looking for him for quite a while. The moment Hirano sees her, he also stands up from his seat. Kuseninoi explains that the teacher has called all the participants, so she wants Keisuke to come along with her. Before Keisuke can respond, Hirano jumps in and says that of course Keisuke will go, then orders him to leave immediately with Kuseninoi. Keisuke replies that he hasn't even finished his lunch yet and tells Kuseninoi she should go ahead without him. But Hirano cuts in again, saying Keisuke has no right to decide that, and insists he must go with Kuseninoi right now. They walk down the corridor together. Kuseninoi asks if he's all right, and Keisuke reassures her that she needn't worry. He glances at her and notes that she seems unusually excited, and admits he thought she wouldn't enjoy this sort of event, so he's surprised to see her enthusiasm. Kuseninoi hesitates and confesses that she doesn't normally feel comfortable with these kinds of games, but then, with a small smile, says she hopes she'll still have fun today. And most of all, she says she's happy that they'll be playing together on the same team. Hearing that, a jolt runs through Keisuke's chest, and he suddenly starts feeling very hot. But he quickly blames the weather for it and turns his face away to hide. Somewhere in the distance, his brain starts buffering. After reaching the playground, the teacher announces that their match is against Class B, and together they're going to crush them. Hearing this, Keisuke is once again reminded of Hebekawa, and he starts feeling low. Just then, Hirano shows up and asks him why he looks down when the match hasn't even started yet. But seeing Hirano, Keisuke is the one who ends up surprised instead. Keisuke asks what he's doing there since he isn't even playing. Hirano explains that he replaced another player, and besides, his real reason for joining the team is to protect Kuseninoi. This annoys Keisuke even more, thinking Hirano could have just switched with him instead. He wonders when Hirano applied for the position of her personal bodyguard. Meanwhile, Hirano goes around telling everyone that no matter what, they must protect Kuseninoi at all costs. He even tells Keisuke to stay extra alert. Meanwhile, Kuseninoi stands nearby, quietly overhearing some classmates whispering. They say she's really annoying because every boy keeps hovering around her, and all the boys are just idiots. They even speculate that maybe Kuseninoi does all this on purpose. One of them adds that Kuseninoi seems like a man-eater. Kuseninoi listens to it all in silence. Ironically, they sound more poisonous than anyone on the field. Keisuke walks over to her and sees that Kuseninoi has her head lowered, clearly looking upset. He asks her what's wrong. In response, Kuseninoi slaps both her cheeks lightly with her hands to snap herself out of it, straightens up, and says that she's fine. As the match is about to begin, Keisuke starts thinking and looks around. He can't spot Hebekawa anywhere among the Class B players. His eyes scan the team, behind the seats, everywhere, but she's nowhere to be seen. Feeling relieved, he happily assumes that maybe she didn't come to school today. Keisuke clasps his hands together and lifts them to the sky, quietly certain that fate has not abandoned him. Meanwhile, the teacher grows suspicious and walks over to Class B, scanning the students with a frown. Realizing someone is missing, she steps outside, preparing to question the others. Just then, the sound of steady footsteps echoes from the stairwell, drawing everyone's attention. But just then, they all see that Hebekawa is entering the playground from the corridor, making quite a dramatic entry, and as she arrives, she tells everyone that they should have expected her, and then apologizes to everyone. She tells the teacher that it took her a long time that to change. The teacher compliments her dramatic entry, but advises her to be careful. Hearing that, Hebekawa lines up her team and leads them to the playing area, her eyes landing on Keisuke, who stares back with a horrified and uneasy look. His soul quietly packs its bags and starts walking toward the horizon. The match begins. Upon seeing Hebekawa in front, Hirano becomes visibly delighted, thinking he's lucky to witness both beautiful girls in the same match. He mentally declares this day a national holiday in his personal calendar. Meanwhile, Keisuke starts slipping into his usual silent state, but tells himself to stay composed and try to be a bit more active here. As soon as the dodgeball game begins, Keisuke thinks he'll grab the ball for a quick head start, maybe even lead his team to victory. But just as he rushes toward it, he sees Hirano step in front. Hirano declares it's the day of his shine, so Keisuke should let him handle it. He silently notes that Hirano treats dodgeball like it's the Olympics. Keisuke doesn't like that. He tells Hirano he just wanted to show his skills to Kuseninoi. If dodgeball had a drama category, Keisuke would have just taken gold. Then, without waiting, he throws the ball with full force toward Class B. It misses the other players and heads straight toward Hebekawa. But before the ball can hit Hebekawa, a heady-built boy from her class suddenly steps in front of her, shielding her just in time. He declares firmly that he'll be the one to defend Hebekawa. Keisuke stares at him like he just met a human brick wall. Without wasting a second, he catches the ball and hurls it straight toward Class A, where it smacks Hirano right in the face, sending him tumbling backward dramatically. Hirano's glasses fly off like they're filing for early retirement. After that powerful smash, the match between the two classes turns intense. Both sides go all out, trying to strike each other's players with fierce focus. Everyone scrambles to protect their team leaders, creating a flurry of dodges, throws, and shouts across the court. The energy rises with every move, and after several rapid exchanges, the game evens out, 2 players remaining on each side. Everyone looks surprised as the game heats up. Now only Keisuke and Kuseninoi are left for their team. In this tense moment, Keisuke thinks this is the endgame and wonders what he should do next. The players standing behind shout that if Kuseninoi gets hit, they won't let it slide. Keisuke readies himself to protect her, fully alert, only to be shocked when Kuseninoi steps forward on her own. Confused, he wonders what this girl is even trying to do. And then, right in that moment, he sees the same heavy guy from before throwing the ball straight at Kuseninoi. But before the ball can hit her, Keisuke suddenly steps in front, taking the full blow himself. The entire crowd gasps in shock. Even Kuseninoi freezes, stunned that Keisuke shielded her without hesitation. She asks him if he's okay, but Keisuke collapses to the ground, wincing, thinking he should have caught the ball, but the throw was too strong. Kuseninoi, looking genuinely concerned, apologizes softly for getting him hurt while covering her. Suddenly, she notices a red scrape on Keisuke's hand, her expression tightening with worry. He tries to hide it like it's a bad grade on a surprise quiz. Seeing the wound, she grows visibly anxious and insists he should show it to the nurse. But as Keisuke gets eliminated, he simply nods and tells her she'll have to be more careful now. She must play defensively. Kuseninoi, however, clenches her jaw in frustration. Grabbing the ball with firm resolve, she declares that she'll take revenge for Keisuke. With a loud scream, she throws the ball with all her strength toward Class B. The sudden intensity leaves everyone stunned, unsure of what just came over her. She stands firm, eyes locked ahead, determined and unshaken. The ball cuts through the air and hits Hebekawa directly. Somewhere, a physics teacher takes notes in admiration. Shock spreads across the court. No one had expected Kuseninoi to strike so decisively, especially not like this. After Hebekawa, Kuseninoi smashes the heavy boy down with a single hit as well, and an announcement follows that Kuseninoi has defeated the last 2 players and claimed the match for Class A. Immediately, she passes a small smile toward Keisuke, while he quietly sinks into thought, wondering if she actually did it, if she might secretly be an athlete. He drifts into a gloomy state, while Hebekawa's friends begin mocking her after the loss. Hebekawa throws them a sharp shut-up call, clearly furious. After a while, several boys step outside and start praising Kusunoki, saying they had no idea she could secretly play this well. Kijike finds himself thinking the same, while Hirano mutters that he completely forgot to go tell her himself. But as soon as they enter the classroom, they see that many students are already gathered around Kusunoki, showering her with compliments. They both wonder silently if Kusunoki even feels comfortable with all this attention, so they decide to leave her there and walk ahead. But in that moment, Kusunoki and Kishike accidentally lock eyes. Neither of them says a word. He quickly turns away and walks past without looking back. Internally, he's screaming like a Wi-Fi signal on 1%. He walks ahead, lost in thought, telling himself that maybe his world and Kusunoki's are simply too different. But just then, Kusunoki's voice calls out from behind. He stops in his tracks, a little startled. As he turns, he mumbles that she almost scared him. Kusunoki, walking up to him, tilts her head and calmly asks why. When their eyes met, he left without saying anything. Keisuke is completely taken aback. He quickly explains that it's nothing like that. He just thought it would be better not to bother her. But Kusunoki suddenly raises her voice, eyes sharp, and tells him firmly that he's never been a bother to her. In fact, she says she had been hoping he would come and call her, because she felt overwhelmed in that crowd. Keisuke stares at her quietly after hearing those words, unsure what to say. Kusunoki stands silently in place, her expression unreadable. Then, all of a sudden, she bends forward and takes a deep breath. Concern flashes across Keisuke's face as he steps closer and asks her gently what's wrong. She laughs and replies that she just feels really relieved after talking to him. Hearing this, Keisuke freezes for a second, then softly says that he felt the same. In his heart, he's just glad that Kusunoki isn't hurt. When Kusunoki asks what he said, he quickly makes an excuse, saying he's leaving now and she should probably go change. Kusunoki just stands there, quietly watching him walk away. As Kusunoki walks back through the corridor, her mind keeps circling around Keisuke's words. Suddenly, Hebekawa appears right in front of her. Kusunoki instantly recognizes her and asks if she's from Class B. Hebekawa nods and calmly introduces herself by name. Hebekawa looks at Kusunoki with surprise, thinking how she had struck her during the game. Yet in person, Kusunoki looks genuinely beautiful. As Kusunoki notices Hebekawa stepping out of the infirmary with a bandage, she asks if it happened during the match. Hebekawa replies that her hand got swollen and admits that Kusunoki is really strong. Kusunoki, feeling embarrassed, immediately begins apologizing sincerely. Hebekawa steps closer to Kusunoki and tells her she truly is an interesting person. She adds that she has actually been wanting to talk to her for quite some time. Hearing this, Kusunoki is surprised and wonders what could possibly be so important. Hebekawa comes even closer and asks if Kusunoki would like to be her friend. For a moment, Kusunoki is left speechless, unsure of how to respond to such a sudden and sincere offer. This wasn't on her bingo card for today. Now let's rewind to the past of our lovebirds. Kusunoki's life passes by quite lonely during her junior middle school years. But one day she meets Keisuke in a library, the same library she often visits to sit quietly. And soon, that usual spot begins to turn into her favorite place. With time, their conversations gradually grow, and then comes a day when Kusunoki arrives a little late and notices that someone else has taken over her usual seat. This incident deeply unsettles her. Now Kusunoki feels quite troubled, as it's the first time another girl has taken her usual spot. She looks like someone just stole her assigned seat in life. In this awkward situation, she ends up sitting across from Keisuke, feeling deeply embarrassed. But as soon as she sits, she notices that Keisuke is reading the exact manga that happens to be her all-time favorite. And seeing this, her excitement shoots beyond even the maximum. She's basically vibrating with manga-based hope. She starts thinking that he might be reading her other favorite mangas too, and the urge to ask him about it makes her restless with curiosity. But Kusunoki doesn't have the courage to talk to him. At the same time, she doesn't want to lose this chance either. So she decides to read the same manga volume in front of him, hoping Keisuke might take the hint. And in her heart, she hopes that since she's a fan of that manga, Keisuke will notice and start talking to her about it. It's a silent scream of saying, "Notice me, manga senpai." But if the story is seen from the other side, we find Keisuke's past life, when he used to sit at his usual library spot in his old school, reading manga alone. And of course, he always sat to Kusunoki's left side. Today, he thinks she is reading unusually loudly, and when he turns around, he sees another girl sitting in Kusunoki's seat. The moment he sees this, he suddenly panics. He wonders where he drifted off, realizing Kusunoki has been sitting near him for a while, making all those noises. It hits him that maybe she is absent today. He tries to calm himself down, reminding his own heart that they're not even friends, so there's no reason to be this anxious. But as he turns his head forward again, he sees her sitting directly across from him, and seeing this makes him panic even more. He's stunned, wondering when she got there, and the biggest question of all, why is she sitting right in front of him? When Kusunoki sits in front of him, he thinks he should take a look at what she's been reading all this time, and as he glances at her book, he sees it's a manga. But what shocks him even more is that she is reading the manga upside down. He wonders if she's reading or trying to summon spirits. Meanwhile, Kusunoki herself is too lost in her thoughts to realize any of this. Kishike always thought she was a little weird, but now he truly realizes just how weird Kusunoki really is. As he's still staring at her, Kusunoki suddenly looks up, and their eyes meet. In that moment, both he and Kusunoki freeze in their spots, locked in a silent stare. During this moment, Kusunoki gives a small smile, and Kishike is left surprised that she actually smiled at him. Meanwhile, Kusunoki feels she has successfully completed her mission, and in this way, those two lonely students from their past school life never really got to speak to each other. But they did end up sharing a great deal of their time together. Not a word spoken, yet somehow, peak romance. Kusunoki is genuinely surprised to hear Hebekawa's friendship proposal, especially as she tries to understand what exactly Hebekawa is asking from her. She blinks like someone just offered her a lifetime supply of social anxiety. Kusunoki, hesitating, asks whether it would really be okay for her to be friends with her, and Hebekawa quickly replies that yes, it would make her so happy to be friends with Kusunoki, because she is such a pretty girl. Her heart suddenly starts racing, unsure what to do now that Hebekawa has so suddenly asked for her friendship. Her brain promptly blue screens, compliment.x not found. Kusunoki agrees to be friends, which makes her genuinely happy, but when she uses her first name, Hebekawa stops her and says she should stick to calling her by her last name Ririsa, because she doesn't like her first name. So in return, Kusunoki also asks her to use her last name, Shizuka, instead. But when she looks more closely at Kusunoki, she notices the girl is completely panicked, overthinking the fact that she made a friend, but still feels she should discuss this with Keisuke. Ririsa doesn't quite understand what's going on, and Kusunoki then asks if they can put this whole friendship thing on a bit of a hold. She gently requests it, while Ririsa remains confused, not really grasping what Kusunoki is trying to say, and ends up completely silent. To Ririsa, this friendship now feels like ordering fries and being told to wait while they milk the cow. At night, when Kusunoki talks to Keisuke over a call, he is quite surprised to hear that Kusunoki has made a friend. Kusunoki tells him she met her after the game, and Keisuke, thinking about it, is even more surprised, feeling like girls are now becoming friends with Kusunoki after being impressed by her game skills. At this rate, Kusunoki's next friend might just show up after sniffing her shampoo. So he congratulates her over the call, but Kusunoki tells him that she's actually put the friendship on hold for now. Keisuke is quietly surprised by this and asks why. She explains that if she officially becomes Ririsa's friend, then their own friendship, hers and Keisuke's, will end. That's when she remembers something Keisuke once said to her. If she makes new friends, their own friendship will end. So he awkwardly tells her that yes, he remembers saying all that. Hearing this, Kusunoki becomes even more troubled. As he tries to end the call, she tells him that maybe she's being selfish, but she just wants to spend a little more time with him. Keisuke is now truly surprised, and that's when Kusunoki confesses the real reason she likes him. She says it while clearly nervous, but delivers it as if it's just part of a normal conversation. Keisuke suddenly shouts and asks her what she means by that. Kusunoki explains that it's true, because he is the very first friend she ever had in her life. Keisuke feels a bit relieved, thinking Kusunoki means she likes him just as a friend. But then Kusunoki keeps saying things in such a misleading way that it starts scaring him. On the call, she also tells him that if she ever bothers him, he's free to give up on her. He blushes a little, and after thinking for a moment, he tells Kusunoki that she's not a bother to him at all. The moment Kusunoki hears this, she suddenly shouts on the call, loudly thanking him. So loud that Keisuke instinctively pulls his phone away from his ear. Keisuke tells her not to shout like that, and Kusunoki explains that she only shouted out of happiness. Meanwhile, he blushes and finds himself thinking. He hadn't expected Kusunoki would share something like this with him after making a female friend, and in that moment, he quietly feels a bit dishonest with himself. During the call, Kusunoki says that she's really happy now and feels ready to reply to Ririsa. But the moment Kisuke hears that name, he suddenly freezes. He asks again on the call, and Kusunoki confirms, yes, it's that girl from Class B, Ririsa. She even says she'll introduce her to Keisuke later. The instant he hears this, he lets out a shocked scream over the call, leaving Kusunoki stunned as she tries to figure out the reason behind his reaction. It's the sound of a man realizing his high school life just turned into a K-drama.